We want the truth, so watch Truth Wanted live Fridays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTW and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callTW.
So you think that you can tell us how to live our lives, never questioning the source from which your moral code derives. You think that suffering is part of some great plan that's been devised. I wonder what will it take for you to start opening your eyes? I wonder.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the Atheist Experience. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm all right. How you doing, Jim?
I am doing pretty good. I kind of forgot what we normally say at the beginning of the show. We're the Atheist Experience with the atheist community of Austin, a nonprofit dedicated to the separation of church and state and the spreading of positive atheism. So, you got anything going on today?
I got a few things going on today. I was just on Talk Haven,
Right.
and that was a lot of fun. Had some interesting callers with J. Mike. Great show. And then we had the Nonprofits, one of the shows that I'm privileged enough to co-produce, and that was just finished up just now.
Cool.
And then here I am.
All right.
With you.
Awesome. Yeah. So, you ready to get started?
I was born ready.
Uh-oh. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's start with Gohan in Texas, who wants to know what the basis of morality of secular humanism. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, so basically it is well-being of humanity as a whole. Does that answer your question?
Would you say that's the end, like the goal to set morality for your objective morality?
You broke up quite a bit on that. But yes, it is a subjective goal against which we can provide objective targets and be able to objectively determine whether or not an action achieves that goal or not.
Okay. Can you hang on a second? I'm going to switch my phone over from speaker to on the phone. Sorry.
Thank you for doing that. I was about to say, please, if you're driving, just stop.
Is this any better?
A little bit, yeah.
Are you on speakerphone or are you on your regular phone? Can you switch to your regular phone if you were on speakerphone?
I was. I'm driving. I was on my car phone.
Oh, this is much better, though. Yeah, this is much better.
This is much better. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I know that's not good for the show. But,
No worries.
and I also want to say, first off, hi to you guys. Nice to talk to you. And Mr. Angel, I just finished watching you on Talk Even. I got to say, you're probably, I think Hemet Meta probably stole your name. You're probably one of the friendliest people I've ever seen on TV. So.
Oh, I try to be friendly, but I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just want to kind of rephrase what you said in my own words, just so we can make sure I'm still understanding what you said. And if I'm wrong, just go ahead and correct me. But secular humanism, the basis for any morality for that is from a subjective goal of well-being for humanity. And there's objective goals to reach that subjective goal. Is that fair?
Yeah, we can make objective measurements against that particular subjective goal. Yes.
Okay, I'm on board with you guys.
Okay.
If I could get a little nerdy for a second, did you guys watch Avengers?
Yes.
Yes.
We are fellow nerds. Yes.
My brother is atheist, and we've had discussions on this quite often.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't heard a good answer from him, so I'm wondering maybe if you guys could give me an answer. But let's just imagine the Thanos snap. 10 years later, humanity was objectively, like, you can measure it, everything was objectively improved from the Thanos snap. Would that make it moral, even though it's random and objectively better?
I would
so
say...
let me rephrase, just because while we can hear you a little bit better, we're getting some information that not everybody may. You're talking about the Thanos snap and whether or not the Thanos snap would be considered moral if, in fact, by every objective measure, humanity's well-being was significantly better. And the answer to that question is, yeah. So the question actually assumes something that is not true, and that is or assumes something that the collective grief that humanity had would need to be offset. That grief and loss of loved ones would need to be significantly offset. And I don't know that you can actually do that because I don't know how to put a value on that. And I don't think that in that case that you could. But as a general rule, yes, there are decisions you can make that can have some that are rather chilling because of, but you have to know that that it is in fact better. And I don't know that the Thanos snap would actually do that. So it really depends on how you balance the scales. And I don't think that Thanos' reasoning, Thanos was insane. The universe is...
I noticed that he was actually he could actually understand why he did that.
Hey, go ahead.
You could say he's insane, but I don't think that's a fair argument.
Go ahead. Well, can you please turn off your car phone? Immediately, because the people that are watching the show are taking time out of their day. I appreciate that you're in a spot, but they don't want to. You sound terrible. I'm sure you have a melodious voice. Beautiful tones come from your throat and your mouth and all that stuff, but you sound god awful. Can you just stop and switch, please?
Okay. Yeah, sorry about this. I know this is bad for the show. Give me one more second. Let me see what I can do.
Why don't we can send you back to the queue and we can bring you back or what?
Is this
Jim?
any better? This is better?
I would say that's substantially better.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the problem with Thanos' assumptions is that the universe is a very, very large place, and that his resource contention argument doesn't make any sense in a real universe. So it may make sense in the Marvel universe, but it doesn't make sense in the real one. The ability to get resources in a universe that is as large as this one is, I wouldn't say it's infinite, but it's nearly infinite. You would have to have a much bigger population than any of the worlds that that have been talked about in the Marvel universe at all. I mean, it just, his reasoning makes absolutely no sense. I mean, even this planet is capable of handling far more people than we've got on it now. We're not anywhere near capacity. So, like I said, his reasoning doesn't make any sense.
Can I jump in here? Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Marvel Universe, notwithstanding, tyrants, the mad tyrant of Titan, son of Mentor. I read the comics. Look, no solution that involves killing half of life, half of humanity, is ever going to be acceptable to a humanist. All right? There are other ways of solving it. And because I'm a human and I don't want to be in that half. I have friends and I don't want them to be in that random half. There is possibly, we encourage people. Hold on a sec, Gohan. Wait a second. You talked. Let me say something here. Please, come on. Not having children, having fewer children, developing scientific methods for increasing water availability, resource availability, things like that. We have to balance the well-being of humanity with the well-being and rights of individuals, because if we start stomping all over the rights of individuals, what are we? Are we just a resource? Is humanity a cattle race that exists purely to propagate humanity? No, we are ends, not merely means in ourselves. And so the rights and dignity of an individual needs to be respected. So hence humanism. So it's not going to cut it. Thanos was wrong. Where was Drex? Where was Adam Warlock? That's what I want to know. But yeah.
Okay.
Is that answer for you?
A little bit can I try to summarize y'all's response?
Can you get back on a better phone? It's something that's just not right with your phone. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm driving in the middle, going from Dallas to Houston, so I can. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I appreciate your call. I can tell. Go ahead. I appreciate you taking the time to call us because you've had things to say. I personally don't want to take this call anymore.
Yeah. He just dropped.
Okay.
So he must have hit some of the hill country between here and there.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of ways you can look at the Thanos snap, and none of them is good. And I was trying to answer within the context of well-being, but yeah, personal rights and the rights of the individual also come into play as part of well-being, etc. There are a number of things to look at on that one.
Where was the living tribunal while this was going on?
Right.
He didn't weigh in.
Yeah, ultimately it's a show and trying to, it's for entertainment. And there's a comment in chat about Thanos trying to get the attention of Lady Death by killing a third made a lot more sense than the reasoning that he gave in the movie. So anyway, moving on to another caller. We don't have too many theists on the line, and as always, we're going to give priority to those. So the next person up is Donna in North Carolina. Hello, Donna.
Hey,
I understand you've got some proof
Hi.
of the existence of God.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, lay it on us.
Can I get... Okay, I'm going to lay it on you. Do you have a Bible in front of you?
No, but...
you're not starting off strong, Donna,
Yeah.
but I don't have a Bible, but we have the internet.
Right.
Okay,
And
awesome.
first off, why do I care what the Bible says? Why do I care what the Bible says?
Because it is God's holy word.
Prove it.
If you're
Prove it.
trying to search God,
Prove it. Prove that the Bible
That's
is
the
God's
problem.
holy word, Donna.
God's holy word. It was
Prove
given
that
to
it's
you.
God's holy word, Donna. I know you said it is.
Okay.
That's an assertion. I
Again.
appreciate that. Let's do it. Let's have it.
Okay. But have you asked God to enter your heart?
That's not answering my question, Donna. I'm asking for you to prove that the
But
Bible is
it
God's
is-
holy word. Can you answer that question, please?
I can. Yes. So when you ask Jesus into your heart, the word comes alive because it is inspired by the word of God.
That's a claim,
Okay,
Donna.
so
But
more
can you give
claims,
us
no evidence?
Yeah, can you give us evidence that that's true? I'm gonna. You're not gonna believe me, Donna.
Well,
okay?
the evidence.
You're not gonna believe me,
the
Donna. But I'm gonna do it right now. God, please enter into my heart and make me a believer. I was trying my absolute hardest, and it didn't work. Honest. I would love to
Do it
be.
right way. Let me give you a scripture. Look it up. I'm using the NLV, Hebrews 11, verse 6, and it says, "It is impossible to please God without faith." Do you know what faith is?
Yeah, faith is the excuse people give when they don't have a reason to believe.
Yeah, but I think Donna's got another definition. Go ahead, Donna. What's yours?
Yeah. Without hope, and Jesus is our blessed hope, anyone who wants to come to him must believe that God exists and that he rewards those who sincerely seek him. So you have
Circular
to
logic.
approach God.
You're-
You can't.
It's
Can I
circular.
give you an analogy?
No,
I'd
because
like evidence instead, if I could.
you haven't told us why we should believe in the Bible. You've used, and it's completely circular, right? It just goes round and around. God proves the Bible, Bible proves the God. You need to step outside that circle and actually show us that God exists before I care what's in the Bible. I do not care what's in the Bible. It is no different to me than the Harry Potter books or Tolkien's The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings series. It's just a work of badly written historical fiction. You need to prove it's something more than that.
Donna, you're making a lot of claims, and I know this is probably very convincing in your faith community. All right, maybe those of you who study the Bible together, maybe, or you get together in church or in meditation or whatever. That's because you're already convinced. Well, we're not convinced. You're going to have to take a few steps back and prove to us why some of these claims you're making are true. Some of these assertions you're making are true. Pretend like somebody's trying to convince you of the existence of Buddha or something, or religion. What would be the things that you would want to hear to believe that the Buddha existed and did all that Buddhist jazz? What would you want to hear?
Well, there's proof that God exists through, like, there's different things. Oh, there's so many. Noah's Ark. If you actually Google that, it's on there.
Yeah, so Noah's Ark never happened, and it could not have happened. I mean, Noah's Ark's also part of the Bible, which you've already said we don't care.
Yeah. Are you telling us, Donna, that they've discovered Noah's Ark someplace that they found in the real world, not in the Bible extended universe, that there was a Noah's Ark?
Top of Mount Ararat.
Oh yeah, okay.
And if you Google it, you can see the outside of it is exact dimensions as given in the Bible.
No, it's been debunked 800,000 times. It's just a bunch of claims, Donna.
And even if it was a boat on the top of a mountain, it doesn't prove that is the boat of Noah's flood, right? Because Noah's flood's got so many problems with it. For one, the deluge it would have caused to put that much water would have pretty much melted the mantle of the earth. You've got problems with that. You have problems that we have organisms that are older than the flood. We have saltwater organisms that are in the flood that if the flood had happened, it would all have been freshwater. They wouldn't have survived. I mean, we can go on and on and on with all of the evidence that shows that Noah's flood never happened the way it was described in the book. The problem is that is, again, in the Bible, and we don't care what's in the Bible until you prove that there's something more to it than badly written fiction. Because Noah's book is not just badly written fiction, it's badly written copied fiction from other flood accounts.
Donna, how did penguins get from Mount Ararat to the South Pole? What did they eat, and how did they get there?
Oh my goodness, what did they eat? God told them what food to put in there. They had provisions on the ark. That's why it was.
On the trek from South America to Mount Ararat, which is several thousand miles. What did they eat on the way there?
And then on their way home from Mount Ararat to the Antarctica, what did they eat, and how did they get there, and how long did it take for them to get there?
Wow, you guys got a lot of great questions. And you need to go to the Noah's Ark Experience Museum in Kentucky.
Well, I'm asking you to answer that. Answer that question, Donna.
There was provisions on there. God
has the Noah's Ark Experience has no answers for how long did it take the penguins to get there? Why we don't have evidence of a penguin migration from the South Pole to Mount Ararat or to the Middle East. They have no answers for how you get sloths out of Australia all the way to Mount Ararat, and because they only move a couple hours a day, and they're tree dwelling. Koalas real serious problem with koalas because they can't eat anything but eucalyptus leaves, so they couldn't have done it. There was simply no way for the ark to, in the dimensions it gave, to provide for all of the food for all the different kinds of animals that were on board.
Jim, I think you were right. You were right that for us to give a hoot about the Bible and some outrageous claims of things getting magicked into happening, we need to be proven to us why we should care about the Bible. And honestly, I don't want to ruin my reputation as a nice guy, but I do feel that Jim and I are going to be treading into punching down right now. And I don't want to do that, Donna, because it doesn't seem like you're prepared to really provide the evidence of the existence of God other than what you've given us so far. And but I'd like to give you a chance. Please give us proof of why we should care about the Bible and what is your evidence to prove that the Bible is true? Not that there are things in the Bible that may have been true, like there was a Roman Empire or things like that. But give us the evidence that the Bible itself is the divinely inspired word of God. Give it to us besides saying, but the Bible says it is. Give us something, please.
Okay. So when I invited Jesus in my heart, he changed my heart, and he's living inside my heart. Okay? And, you have a relation. Why do you think he created you, to have a relation?
I don't believe that God created me. I believe that my parents, I don't know why they did this, by the way, because they aren't a good match. They had sexual intercourse with each other. And then 9 months later, little baby Johnny was born. And then we followed this all the way back in time and until, we get to the origin of life through the process of abiogenesis. And no one knows how that happened. And there was matter and all that stuff before that. There's nothing in my philosophy that requires the existence of Jesus creating me and him existing inside of my cardiovascular system. So, do you have evidence besides you had a personal experience, Donna? Can you give it to us besides a personal experience? And I will not deny that you have had and continue to have personal experiences of what you might identify as spiritual, divine, holy experiences. I'm not denying that you have what you have identified as experiences. I would just contest that they are evidence of a divine realm, a spirit realm. So give us something that we can accept.
Okay, so have you ever been around a believer before they got Jesus into the heart, before they asked Jesus into the heart? There were
yes, I have.
Kinds of bad things and all that.
Yes, I have.
Afterwards, did you notice a change in their behavior?
Yes, for the worse.
Christ-centered.
For the worse. For the worse, Donna. I had an ex-girlfriend who did not believe, and then she became a Pentecostal, and she was racked with shame and guilt. And then she got rid of those beliefs and now is happily married with a beautiful child and is financially successful and physically fit and just a good all-around person.
And for me, they became much more judgmental and just much more
spirit.
Yeah, all I know is by what they claim, and they claim to have the exact same experience you have. And the others, as far as I could tell, the only reason that anything that improved in their lives was because of effort they put in that they attributed to something that they couldn't prove existed. So none of that actually does you any good, unfortunately, proving anything. Again, we can't disprove your personal experience. All I can do is take a look at other people's, a couple of the people who've been through the same thing. One became far more judgmental and much more of an asshole. And the other one, as far as I could tell,
spirit.
Yeah, so you say it was a religious spirit, but it seems to me, Donna, that you're making more claims. Again, I do feel at this point that we're listening to you and you're making a lot of assertions, and I appreciate your enthusiasm, and I assume you're bringing this information or these claims to our attention because you want to share the good news and you want the world to be a better place and more people to go to heaven, but it's not working. It's not, I know you're trying to help, Donna, I get it, but it's not working. In fact, you're only hardening my heart, much like God hardened the Pharaoh's heart. And I don't want a calcified heart. I'm going to need it later. So can you maybe come back with better evidence, something outside of the Bible and your personal experience? Can you maybe do that?
Just once you get Jesus in your heart, you want to help your fellow man. You want to do what Christ did.
I want to help my fellow man right now, and my fellow woman, and my fellow non-binary folks too. I want them to have access to education and clean water and nutrition. I want them to have access to justice. And I don't need God or Zarathustra or Frog Thor for that to happen. I just need compassion and humanity.
Yep.
Well, that comes from God.
No.
Okay.
It comes from a love of our fellow humans, and expanding our tribal outlook to include all of humanity and not just those who happen to believe the way that we do. So anyway, Donna, thank you for your call. Unfortunately, we just don't accept your evidence. So you have a good time. All right. Take it easy. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Well, Jim?
Yeah. Personal experience. Yeah. Okay. Doesn't fly. All right. Who do you think we should take next?
I believe that we should take Malcolm from Illinois.
All right. We'll do that. Malcolm, you're on. Almost. There we are. You're on with Jim and Johnny. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Well, pretty good for a Sunday.
Yep.
So what you got for us today?
I just want to talk about my religion.
Okay.
Before you do that, Malcolm, your connection is terrible. I'm a call screener, okay? My heart will always be with the crew. And as an eternal call screener, whether I be on one show or another, I have to say, your sound coming through is atrocious. It doesn't do you the justice that you deserve. So if you are on speakerphone, can you please get off of speakerphone? Are you on speakerphone right now?
No, I'm on headphones, Bluetooth.
Get off your headphones immediately. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of static coming through. It makes it very difficult to understand you.
Better?
Say something. Is it better? Let's hear it.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, there's something.
The static went away. Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about your religion? Which religion is that?
Muslim.
Okay. My understanding is that there's two major versions of Islam. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm Nation of Islam.
Nation of Islam. Okay. That's one I haven't heard of before.
You've never heard about it?
No, Islam I have, but Nation of Islam I have. Oh, is that Malcolm X?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm a complete new guy. I don't know as much about Islam or Nation of Islam as I do Christianity and Catholicism in particular. So I apologize if I ask stupid questions, because I probably will. So what's the difference between Nation of Islam and most forms of Islam, or is there a difference?
Well, the biggest difference is we teach that God came down in the person of Master Fraud, Muhammad.
He came down as a person, and I didn't catch the rest.
Yeah.
We believe that God came in the person of Master Fraud, Muhammad. Allah.
Okay. Okay, and how is that different? Is that different from other Islam sects, or is that the same?
What was that?
Is that the same as other Islam sects, or is that different?
Oh, no, it's way different.
Okay. Okay. And why do you believe that this is true?
Because the evidence and of what he taught was groundbreaking. His way ahead of his time. He had to be the supreme being to have that knowledge.
Give us an example of some of that knowledge that could not have been conveyed by a regular old human like you and me.
He taught us. Are you familiar with the Yaqub story?
No.
You're not?
Again, no. Why don't you give us the gist of the Yakub story and explain to us why a person could not have come up with that using observational skills and reason and knowledge of the time? What is that? Tell us. Assume we don't know anything, okay? I do every day I wake up. I assume that I'm an idiot, and I usually am. So just go ahead. What is it? Tell us. It feels like we're pulling teeth here, and I want you to just profess this truth to us.
Well, the Yakub story basically is the origin of the Caucasian people.
Okay.
Yakub was a mad scientist, a big-headed scientist. He was super smart, and he created white people through a method called, have you heard of grafting?
Created
Hello?
white people to what?
A process called grafting.
Okay. And what do you
So
base
basically,
this on? What's the evidence that this type of grafting
Well, the
is
evidence
possible?
With science, we now know that blacks were the first humans on Earth. We know that, right? You would admit to that, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Africa was
So we know-
the birthplace.
Yes. So we know that blacks came first. We both agree on that.
Yes. So, but the grafting is a rather specific thing that happens with plants.
Yeah.
How does it happen with human beings?
So Homo sapiens appear to have originated on the African continent some millions of years ago in some form or another. And so are you suggesting that because there are now Caucasian people, that a mad scientist grafted those original Homo sapiens who came out of Africa with some other creature or being to create Caucasian people? So I'm part.
No,
I think
no. Let me tell you how he did it. So basically, it was basically all black people, right? All of Africans. So he started breeding the lighter ones with the lighter ones, and he would kill off the dark babies, and he would only breed the light ones. So they kept getting lighter and lighter. So we started off black, and then it went to
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and what is your evidence that this breeding program happened? And what is your evidence the breeding program happened?
You just got to study genetics.
Okay, but the genetics proves that happened. That there is a genetic drift that caused the difference in skin tones, but that doesn't prove that it was intentional. And that's what I'm asking you to prove, is to prove that this was intentional by a single individual.
And we have to study genetics. So that must mean, Malcolm, that you yourself have engaged in what might be a lifelong study of genetics. Is that true?
Oh, no, not lifelong. No, I'm not going to say lifelong.
Right.
So how much time have you spent studying genetics?
About, I'd say, a year.
A year, okay.
So,
and when you said studying genetics, and what were you studying? How are you studying genetics? Did you go to university to study genetics?
No, I just listen to God. Master Faradi tells me.
Oh.
Okay, so your belief that your proof that the genetic drift in skin color was directly attributed to one person is just belief.
They call him Jacob in the Bible. But it's Yakub. His name's Yakub.
Okay, but this is one person that is responsible for all of this genetic drift. Is that correct?
Yeah, so Master Farad taught that 6,000 years ago. It's when he did it.
So how does this? So this had to have happened in a single generation, right? I mean, but genetic drift doesn't happen that fast. So I'm very confused. How many generations did it take?
It took like 400 years, I believe.
So one person lived for 400 years?
No.
Okay.
Great question. A mad scientist bred human beings from darker phenotypical expression until lighter phenotypical expression as far as like melanin and all that stuff. And it was one mad scientist that did this, and he lived for 400 years. Or did he pass on the experiment onto his children and children's children?
Yeah, he passed it on.
Okay, and what is again, I'm looking for evidence that the genetic manipulation was intentional and not just a result of natural selection. So what is your evidence for that?
You have to read the Bible.
Say we don't want to read the Bible,
we just had this conversation.
Say we don't want to read the Quran or the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or the Rig Veda or the Silmarillion or something like that, and we wanted to figure out whether this were true. What would be the first step we would do to determine whether or not a mad scientist over the course of 400 years with his progeny and colleagues genetically modified human beings from African type human beings with darker skin to lighter human beings with lighter skin? How would we go about testing that?
You'd have to do a test on genetics and see when, because he gives a specific date. He said he teaches it 6,000 years ago. So you'd have to see when Caucasians originated.
Okay, so did you do that testing? You said you studied for a year. Perhaps in the course of that 1 year of studying genetics, you did that testing. But, well, you didn't, though. You listened to a preacher, a Nation of Islam teacher, preacher, imam, or some leader of education who told you about this. But did you ever check whether that teaching was correct?
I mean, it makes sense if you think about it.
It also doesn't make sense if you think about it. So
well,
how would you
there's a problem with the phrase "it makes sense if you think about it," right? Because that could also be applied to the world is flat. It just makes sense if you think about it. There are a number of things that are counterintuitive in science, and so that phrase doesn't actually work. So we need something more than just "it makes sense if you think about it." We actually need some evidence, and that's not evidence. So again, you have the genetic drift. We agree there was genetic drift, but you haven't shown us how we know that genetic drift was intentional and not the result of natural selection.
Well, think about it. If somebody teaches that 6,000 years ago this happened, and then there's evidence of that, if you look at it, that supports it, how could you not?
So you have two events. Somebody teaches something, and we have evidence that what they're teaching appears to be coincidentally correct. What I'm looking for is not coincidence. I'm looking for direct causation. I'm looking for evidence that the teaching coincides with what we observe, because that could just be a story, and humans are storytellers. We make up stories to explain stuff all the time. That's how a lot of creation stories get started, is trying to explain creation. That's why people have stories of thunder gods and all the rest of this stuff to explain natural phenomena, is through stories. But that just because there's a story that all thunder comes from Thor or any other thunder god or storm god or whatever you want to name, it doesn't matter. And we have thunder does not mean that your thunder god causes thunder, right? So that doesn't exactly work as evidence, right? So what else do you have for us?
Okay, there's a study I've seen this one time. I'm going to bring it up for you. It's going to blow your mind, bro. It's going to blow your mind.
Jim, I have a feeling, and maybe it's because I haven't been doing these call-in shows for as long as some people out there, but it does seem that Malcolm is joking with us. At the very least, I believe that the Nation of Islam would be better served if Malcolm weren't the person trying to convince us of its claims. Because Malcolm, I think you're kind of literally phoning this in.
Yeah, I don't think Malcolm is joking at all. I just think he hasn't run into these types of questions before, like so many Christian callers. Right. So Malcolm, what do you got that's going to blow my mind? I don't want to spend too much time
studies
waiting.
Says that 6,000 years ago, is when blue eyes originated. So think about it. If Master Fard Muhammad taught 6,000 years ago that this process was initiated, and then science now comes to prove that 6,000 years ago is when blue eyes.
So again, but my objection is still, just because I have stories about storm gods causing thunder and thunder exists doesn't mean storm gods cause thunder, right? So just because you have a story that this happened and then we can see that this happened does not mean that those two things are, that the story is causal of the effect. And that's what I'm looking for. I want you to prove to me what the cause and the effect was. And that's what I'm looking for, right? Is how do you prove that genetic drift was intentional versus natural selection? That's the fundamental question you've got to be able to answer.
We can't go back, so I can't give you like specific evidence because we can't go back in time, obviously.
Right. So this may be something where we just have to go, we don't know, and we may not be able to know, right? I don't know enough about genetics to know if it's even possible to do that.
One of the things he taught, my overall point is he's still God. There's so much evidence for the nation of Islam.
Okay, give us another piece of evidence then. We hear about how there's so much evidence.
Have you heard of the mother plane?
The what?
The mother plane?
Heard of the far plane, but that's, I think, Final Fantasy
The mother. No, it's called the mother plane. Not
the
Final
mother
Fantasy,
plane?
bro.
Plain?
So
mother plane. No, have not.
Yeah, you could. So basically, the Nation of Islam teaches that these planes were created by God for a specific purpose to destroy America. And he gave specific measurements for all of these wheels. There's a mother wheel and there's 15,000 smaller wheels. So now you see the government declassifying all this quote unquote UFO shit when it's really not UFO. They know exactly.
We're starting to drift off into truth wanted territory and a whole bunch of claims that we just don't have time to dig into right now. Unfortunately. And I still want to go back to, you need to prove that the genetic drift was intentional. And hopefully you call back with that evidence. But yeah, those are a bunch more claims I'm not really willing to go into at the moment, just because there are so many of them and we still have so many callers. But feel free to call back with to talk about that specifically on another day. So anyway, Malcolm,
he's gonna punish both of you.
Christians have been saying that for a couple of decades and it hasn't happened yet. So good luck with you.
come back with some better arguments, or better yet, I tell you what, I think before you come back with better arguments, I think you need to do some research. I think you need to maybe finish that crash course in genetics that you took, and then come back, and then we'll meet you. We'll meet you there, and we'll have a good time.
Yeah, and I think we're getting ready for one of my favorite things that we do right now, which is quotes taken out of context. So if you want to find out what's been going on in the rest of the ACA network, here we're going to be showing here shortly. And this is my first time actually doing this transition, so it's going to be rougher than we intend, and I apologize for that. But around the ACA and on our other shows, here's what's going on with our network.
Yeah, I feel like you and I are on our way to like an escalating war of obnoxiousness to see who can get the best soundbite in each and every week. So now that we're both here, it's in competition.
The Pfizer vaccine and all the other ones are real. You guys should go get it if you haven't already. And I would say, yeah, you can stop watching the show and go get yourself an appointment to do that. I'm okay with that.
I had told you from the very beginning that this was a good idea. And don't you go showing me clips of me saying the opposite thing, because I'm just going to come up with some other bull.
I don't give a about Matt Dillahunty right now. All right? Let's forget about...
Matt.
Yeah, no well, you know what you can do, Matt.
Okay. The next time God shows up, ask him why he's a who will show himself to you, but not to me. And then ask him what number I'm thinking of and call me back.
What next call should we take, Jim? Jim's muted. Do you want to take
I'm
Derick
sorry.
from Georgia?
Yeah, we could do that. I'll hit the button. And Derick in Georgia, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
and your audio sounds great.
And Derick, real quick, did the call screener warn you not to ask if we can hear you?
Johnny.
No.
No? No? Okay, well, I'm going to have some words with that. call
Johnny.
screener. Wait,
All right, so
go on.
what you got for us today, Derick?
So I guess I would like to say I'm a theist in the sense that I think it's the most reasonable conclusion to come to based on my understanding. And I guess the way I would go about it is consciousness. I know it's really hard to understand consciousness, but I think there's a few premises that we could agree on potentially. So I was wondering if maybe I could ask those couple just to see if we can have some common ground and then kind of move to my conclusion.
Sure.
So,
Go ahead.
First of all, can we agree that consciousness exists?
For some definition of exist, I'm sure we can.
Okay. And can we agree that plants have consciousness?
You would need to demonstrate that. As far as I know, consciousness needs a mind, and I don't know that plants have a mind. So I don't know how they can be conscious. So you need to demonstrate that.
Well, when you say plants, I mean, in order to have consciousness, you need a mind. Can you demonstrate that? What do you mean when you say mind?
Well, I mean, like an actual set of neurons dedicated to processing information in much the same way that most animals do.
So plants have been demonstrated to respond to stimuli and pain.
Right.
Would that not qualify as some sort of conscious?
Well,
like
so the working definition or the definition out of the dictionary for consciousness is a state of being awake and aware of one's surroundings.
Right.
Awareness, perception by something by a person, or awareness. And I think there's a difference between awareness and responding to one's surroundings in, say, the way the plant would, right? A plant's going to start growing roots towards water and things like that, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's making a decision to do so, as far as we know, as far as has been demonstrated. So consciousness is kind of hard to nail down, but I don't know that plants are actually making a conscious decision in the same way that, say, a gopher would make a conscious decision to go for this food source or that food source, or be able to recognize danger. So, I mean, there's some differences there that I'm not necessarily willing to give to plants in terms of consciousness. Do they react to their environment? Sure. Is that the same thing as an animal doing the same thing? I don't think so, but willing to hear some evidence on it.
Well, I guess what I would ask and follow up to that is, I guess what you may or may not be determining is just because it responds to stimuli doesn't mean that it's actually aware of itself. But I guess in a materialistic view, we would probably assume that even your thoughts and awareness of yourself are just electrical signals interpreted by your brain, right? That's just chemical responses to physical stimuli, right?
Yeah.
That's what it seems. Yes.
So who are we so how did you determine that is, a human's consciousness is that of a mind, but a plant's is not of a mind?
The level of interaction with the level of interaction and decision making.
But aren't our decisions? I've even seen Matt Dillahunty. Obviously, he's not there, but I've seen the argument that we may not even have free will because those are just synapses firing within the brain, right, through our nervous system. That even those are just chemical reactions and not really even our decision.
And even with that, there's a level of complexity to that plants may or may have not been demonstrated to have. For instance, animals have been known to forego pain for a goal. You need to show that plants kind of do the same thing. And those are the things that kind of differentiate between those two things. Is the complexity and the ability to override those senses, I think, as well. And so, I'm not really willing to give that to plants at the moment without a lot more evidence of something more going on than just cells doing cell things in plants.
I don't know whether or not plants have consciousness. I don't know whether or not worms have consciousness, or ants, or even my beloved dog has a kind of consciousness per se. But how does that prove the existence of God? That I don't know. I don't know because I don't have all the answers. I'm not the answer.
Well, we're on the second premise. We're on the second premise of the first one was that humans have consciousness. We agreed. We're disagreeing on the second one, that plants also have consciousness. And I don't know that I'm really going to be willing to, without some pretty serious amounts of scientific evidence, to actually grant that. So no, I'm not willing to grant that at the moment. And we don't have time in this call to go into it. So.
Sure. Well, I guess what I was going to go at was, obviously, if we could agree that plants have some type of consciousness, then we could potentially agree that consciousness is not dependent upon a brain. And if that was the case, then obviously you could see where I was going with that.
And I would say that even if you were to prove that there are cells in a plant that allow it to make decisions, and that we could call that thing a brain of some kind, no matter how simple, that with what we normally think of as consciousness would still, at that point, once those cells died, then you no longer have that consciousness anymore. So even if I were to grant that, I don't see how you get there.
Yeah, we're talking about organisms. Derick, we're talking about organisms that have physical matter and a nervous system of some kind of a structure that has some form of electricity and chemicals running through it. Now let's jump to God. Where is the physical substance?
Are you saying that God requires a physical substance?
Well, I'm saying show me a consciousness of any kind that exists outside of a physical reality, like matter and energy. Every single form of consciousness, or debatable consciousness, all the way down to plants, if you want to, there's something there, right? There's a string of nerves. There's a spinal cord. There's responsive cells and stuff that respond to stimula. But now you're talking about God exists without that. Now show that there are other examples of non-physical based consciousness.
Non-physical based consciousness. I don't think anyone would agree that consciousness is physical. Or dependent upon physical, especially if we can.
Yes.
Really? Give me an example of a non-physical consciousness, Derick. I'm sorry, I cut you off. I did. That's not fair. Give me an example of a non-physical consciousness, one that isn't rooted somewhere in a brain or a string of nerves or something like that.
I guess I would say, not that I'm trying to shift the burden of proof, but the question that you're asking me is assuming that consciousness is reliant on a brain, and I was wondering if you were able to demonstrate that.
No, you're the one that's
so far. every instance of consciousness that we can point at has a brain attached to it, and that is the evidence that we're accepting. We don't know that there is any that it is possible for a consciousness to exist without some sort of physical attribute, and so we're not claiming that it's not possible. We're simply asking you for the evidence that it is possible, and if it is possible, if it is not possible to provide that evidence, then how do you conclude that a God is possible?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Jim. Thank you.
Well, I guess that's where we came back to the definition of consciousness being the state of being awake or aware of one's surroundings. And we know plants are, in fact, aware of their surroundings. That's why a lot of times
then we get into the question of what do we mean by aware. I will agree that plants react to their surroundings, and from that point of view, you could use the word aware, but I don't know that. Well, what else do they do?
I mean, plants can actually be proactive, not reactive.
And how are they proactive?
In a lot of cases.
How are they proactive?
Let's see. I can come up with a example.
Make it quick. Yeah, that it's difficult for them to come up with something that's proactive. Because I mean, even like your Venus flytraps are reactive, right? To their prey landing on them. So I don't know that you could actually.
I read a book called The Hidden Life of Trees. Great book. I don't know if you've ever read that one, Jim. It talks about the complicated interactions between the environment, stimulus, and plants. And I will not deny that I learned an awful lot of things about how interactive, how responsive plants are, how they communicate in one form or another through spermatozoa and hormones and seedlings and all these other things, signals, and through the mycelial network below the surface of the earth. It's amazing what they can do, what they do. But that doesn't, at no point was I thinking, oh, there's a tree thinking, I want to be the best tree that I can possibly be. I wonder, about God. God must exist. Just look at me. Look at me. I mean, I don't think you're saying that. I think what you're saying is that
I think we're strawmanning now. But
I said I don't think you're saying that. What I'm saying is that the very fact that there is an organism that responds to stimulus does not itself make it conscious.
Right. So
there's a qualitative.
Did you come up with that example you're looking for?
Well, in the process of trying to find that example, and I'm kind of a little nervous because I'm on the spot and I got to find it quickly.
Yeah.
So
it's not easy.
It dawned on me while I was trying to look for it that, wait, so we're saying that because we can't prove that it's not only reactive and not proactive, is that us assuming that humans are proactive and not just reactive? It's not all just literally a chemical reaction in the brain before we make any decision.
I don't know that we can prove it one way or the other. At the moment, it's a giant I don't know. We appear to be proactive, but there is a definite possibility that, we aren't proactive or reactive at all. We're just going along with whatever the chemistry says. So I don't know that that's the case, but
so you might conclude that it's also possible that plants are just as conscious as human beings.
Well, I would say I would. Well, it is possible, and that's why I'm asking for evidence that it is in fact the case.
Yeah,
right?
You're the one making assertions, Derick, and we're waiting for you to provide evidence instead of is it possible? Well, I don't know. I'm not a treeologist or a plantologist. Right. They call them botanists, right, or something like that.
Yeah, botanists.
Yes,
anyway, but do you have any evidence that it is the case? And that's what we're looking for. And you say they react to their environment. I agree they react, but I don't think that reaction is what I would call consciousness.
Well, yeah, because I was thinking of the Venus flytrap when you said that. And you're like, well, it's reactive. And it's like, well, isn't that, it's literally reaching out and grabbing something.
No, it waits. It doesn't reach out and grab anything. It waits for the fly to land on the leaf, and then it closes. Now, it does use some pheromones to try to attract stuff, but it's waiting for the fly to land.
Derick.
And I don't know that's anything more than reactive. So even if we grant that plants are conscious in the way you want them to, you now have to still demonstrate that it's possible to have a consciousness without a brain. And I would say that we could probably go in, and maybe botanists go into the plants and figure out what the reaction mechanism is, and that reaction mechanism is actually based on cells doing cell stuff. So you still haven't proven that God exists.
Yeah. Derick, give it to us, because I'm kind of done with this conversation. I appreciate your enthusiasm. Jim has been very generous with his time and intellect with you. Let's have it. And if we can't agree on these premises, then maybe we can't get any further than that.
No, yeah. So I'm not so presumptive to think that I could even present the conclusion without first agreeing on the premises. So if we can't agree on the premises, I do realize that it's pointless.
Yeah. Well, Derick, life is long, Derick, and we have more time to talk. So maybe let's break. Let's agree that we're going to stop talking now, and we're going to go off in our separate directions, and you're going to come back with better evidence, and we'll be here. If not me, definitely Jim and others will be here to continue this conversation. You're welcome to join me in Talk Heathen sometime to talk about plants being conscious. But I'm kind of, it's cool. We don't have to settle this right now, but I'm not convinced. I don't think Jim certainly isn't convinced.
No, definitely not. Yeah. Any last words, Derick?
I can agree with that.
All right.
Good
talking to you, man.
All right. Talk to you later. And so, if you guys are looking for ways to support the show and the ACA, you'll notice right below the chat, you'll notice there is a donate now box. Donations made there mean that the ACA will get 100% of the proceeds. YouTube does not take a cut, and that is the best way to support us. You can get some Atheist Experience merch by visiting bit.ly/AEN merch. And I believe we also occasionally post that URL below. You can get t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, stickers, and a lot more. And then you can become a member for as little as 99 cents a month. Click the join button below the video. That'll give you access to special chat emojis and be immune from the messaging limits that non-members have, i.e. slow mode, for example, one message every 2 minutes, etc. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/The Atheist Experience. We also have 3 Facebook groups that are run by fans for fans that you can interact with. The first is the Atheist Experience fan group at facebook.com/group/AXPFG. There is also the Atheist Experience private fan group where you can interact with others without having those interactions appear on your public feed at facebook.com/groups/AXPPFG. We also have a new group, the Atheist Experience fan group, Atheist versus Theist Debates, where you can try out some of your arguments on theists and atheists alike. You can find that at facebook.com/groups/AXPFanDebates. We also have a channel that houses all the shows of the ACA in audio podcast form. Visit tiny.cc/AEN podcasts, and you can listen to all the latest shows from the Atheist Experience, Talk Heathen, Truth One, and Secular Sexuality, Nonprofits, and all of our others, all on one channel. And also just make sure you check out our other shows. We've got Secular Sexuality is a live show on Thursday starting at 7 Central. Truth Wanted airs on Fridays at 7 p.m. And we have our Sunday shows. Talk Heathen airs at 1 p.m. Central. Nonprofits is on right before this show at 3 p.m. Central. And finally, the most important people we have are our crew. And those guys are what allows Johnny and I to sit down and just make mouth noises, as Shannon Q likes to say. And there they are, all of our misfit toys right there, all putting the show on for you guys. They deserve so many of the thanks, and honestly, supporting them is much more important than supporting us, because hosts come and go, but those guys are the ones that put the show on every week and do everything for us. So next caller, do you just want to get this one over with?
Oh, Dave from Texas, or are you
No.
talking about Otangelo?
Otangelo. Yeah, let's rip the Band-Aid off.
As you wish.
Yeah. Otangelo, what you got for us today? What script are you going to read for us?
Yes, hello guys. Thank you for taking my call.
Uh-huh.
Okay, here is my argument and my syllogism. 1, DNA is a molecule that stores assembly information to make proteins, which are molecular
I
machines.
disagree. I disagree with it already.
Yes,
Disagree with premise 1.
Yes, can I make...
Otangelo, my friend. No, dude.
No, we're going to stop. We're going to stop you at premise 1.
I've listened to so many calls by Otangelo, and you just go into this tirade, and you think if you can just say it faster, that somehow it's going to work, bro.
Right. So
stop.
your problem with your first premise is the use of the word information. And DNA does not store information. DNA is a chemical that other chemicals interact with. The word information is simply something that we use as a mental model for how that happens, and it does not mean the same thing as information that you and I use. For instance, a map is information on how to get from point A to point B. So that's my entire objection to the word use of the word information. DNA is a chemical, yes. It's a chemical that other chemicals interact with, yes. But there is no data and there is no information involved. It's just chemicals.
You are unmuted now, Otangelo. What is your response to Jim's very specific response to your claim?
Otangelo.
Information.
Oh.
You're cutting in and out, and we're getting mostly silence on your end, Otangelo. I'm sorry.
Try again, please.
Okay, I'll try again. I disagree with Jim's claim. It is known that DNA stores instructional assembly information, which is through the
So again, my objection, Otangelo,
interrupting me. Why can I not finish?
Go ahead and mute
because I'm
again.
interrupting you at the point where I have a disagreement, so that we can talk about the specific disagreement, Otangelo. So. Specifically, information is defined as facts provided or learned about something or someone. The second definition is what is conveyed or represented by a typical arrangement or sequence of things. And if you mean information is that second one, then you are correct. But I don't think you do. I think you're thinking that it's facts provided or learned about something. In other words, facts about how to build a human being, and that is not correct. It is simply an arrangement of chemicals.
So what? Okay, so what is the function of DNA?
It's a chemical that other chemicals react with that eventually builds cells and animals and plants.
Okay, so it builds cells. So it instructs the assembly of proteins, and it instructs through the sequence of nucleotides the correct sequence.
So when you say instructs, what exactly do you mean by the word instructs?
The sequence of nucleotides says how the sequence of amino acids will be assembled. The sequence of amino.
So let me go back again. I'm sorry. You say that it says how to do something. How does it say how to do something? What's because when you were to say that usually means there's information being transmitted. How is that being transmitted?
Well, through the transcription to a messenger RNA, and then the translation through the ribosome, which then makes the polymerization of the amino acids, which then become proteins.
It's chemicals doing chemical stuff. Yes.
Yes.
There's no information. There's no facts being stored. It's simply chemicals being stored, chemicals that other chemicals interact with. I agree with that.
I skipped as many science classes as I could in high school, so I think this is the limit where I can participate.
Okay.
But yeah, chemicals doing chemical stuff. I'm with you. Okay.
Right. Okay. So how does that prove that? How does that prove your point that there's a God?
Well, again, the sequence of nucleotides must be right in order to have a functional sequence of amino acids, which then will fold into 3D form and become functional molecular machines, which are proteins. That sequence has to be right. And in order for you to have it right, you need the information which is the sequence of nucleotides stored in DNA.
No, I mean, so that does not prove a God. That only proves that if the DNA worked differently, or the chemicals in DNA were different, that we would be formed differently. Does not prove a God.
Well, it would not form functional proteins. That is the key issue.
It would, right. It would perform different proteins that would do different things, and we would have, and if there was life at all, it would be different. That's all you get out of that, is if things were different, things would be different. That does not prove God.
Right.
Well, the thing is that the sequence space is huge. In order to have a functional sequence, you have to choose amongst many possible different sequences. And just to give you
so what?
An example,
Are you counting the hits and ignoring the misses then?
Yeah, I don't see what that point is, Otangelo.
Well, if I can finish my sentence, then you'll know what my point is, okay? So if you have an alternative to intelligence, sequencing the right sequence, and that would be random unguided events. Just to give you an example, an average-sized protein has about 300 amino acids. To have a right sequence just of a third, about 100 amino acids, the odds are 1 to 10 to the 100.
Okay, so I can stop you right there, Otangelo. I don't care what the odds are, because the odds of it happening are 1 because they did. In order to prove what the odds are against, you need to know what the entire field is. But that still doesn't prove, just because the odds are against something happening, and it does happen, that does not prove that somebody was behind the event, the highly unlikely event. Right? It doesn't prove anything other than the event happened. So what? How does the odds being against it prove anything?
Well, you have two options. Either it was intelligence that was involved to assemble the right sequence, or random unguided events. If the
No. Those are not the only two options. Because you know what the other option is? That it's not random.
Tell me.
It's not random. It doesn't have to be random. Chemicals doing what chemicals do is not random. What chemicals do is based on the laws of chemistry. Now, the laws of chemistry happen to be based on the laws of physics, and the laws of physics happen to be based on the quantum, or the logic of quantum mechanics. So everything comes down to quantum mechanics. None of that is random. So what?
If you could not have any assembly and any sequence, then you could not have information. So the sequence...
You don't have information the way you mean it. So just don't quit using the word information, because you and I are going to disagree on your usage of that word, because you're not using it correctly.
I mean, you don't have to disagree with me. You would have to disagree with the biologist.
Well,
when a biologist says information, I agree that what they're talking about is what is conveyed or represented by an arrangement or sequence of things, and that is not how you're using that word. You're using that word to mean facts provided or learned about something, right? You're using the same word completely different from the way biologists do. So I agree with biologists. I don't agree with your usage.
I am not using descriptive information. I am using prescriptive information. The meaning of prescriptive means that the sequence of a nucleotide stored in DNA prescribes the sequence of amino acids which require to be just right to have a specific process.
Yes. Chemicals doing chemical stuff. We've already said, I agree, chemicals do chemical things, but you still haven't proven that any of that is a result of a God. You claim randomness. I pointed out that the odds of that happening are apparently 1 because they did, and the odds against something happening, no matter how great the odds, doesn't mean that there's an intelligence behind the event happening. So what next?
Well, if the odds are beyond what the universe in 14 billion years is possible to convey,
I don't care about what the odds are because they don't prove anything. The odds don't prove that somebody guided it.
Well, I think if you have two options on the table, Jim, one is intelligence and the other is not.
So how do you know those are the only two options on the... it's not random. That's my point. It is not random. It's all based on quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics informs physics. Physics informs chemistry. Chemicals doing chemical things. None of that is random.
Right. He's saying...
Quantum mechanics would dictate the sequence of the nucleotides, then you could not, then they would be constrained. Then you could only have a very specific sequence which would be dictated by quantum mechanics.
Yes, and that's exactly what we have. That's the evidence that we have right now. That's the evidence that we have. And you're saying that evidence points to a God. And I'm going, where? Where's the God involved in this? It's all natural causes.
Well, you keep claiming it, Jim, but the thing is that if the possibility of random shuffling is beyond what the universe in 14 billion years is capable of doing, then
the problem is that you're assuming that all possible events are equally probable, and you can't demonstrate that. You can't demonstrate that all events are probable, right? So, for instance, if I've got a six-sided dice and it's weighted correctly, each side of the dice has an equal opportunity to come up. But if I weight that dice, then all of a sudden, more often, a six will come up or whatever I weighted it to. And so you can't assume that all options are equally valid or have the exact same possibility of happening. We don't know that. There's no way to show that. So the odds of the speed of light being what it are, you can calculate that somehow. Maybe, I don't know how. But that doesn't mean that all those possibilities are equally weighted. We just don't know that. So again, I don't care what the odds are because they don't prove anything, because we don't know enough about this universe, much less how other universes could have formed, to begin to even figure out what the probabilities should be. It is entirely possible that with quantum mechanics, this is the only universe possible. It's entirely possible that it's not. We don't know. So again, how the argument from odds makes no headway with me, and it shouldn't with you, but apparently it does. So what do you got?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get what we're looking for with Otangelo. Go ahead. Last thoughts, please, Otangelo, and make them brief.
Yes, I disagree with Jim, and it is well known by all science that DNA stores instructional assembly information to make proteins.
We already granted you that.
Likely to be formed by unguided random events, therefore intelligence.
Yeah, Jim, I think.
Thank you so much. We covered it.
Move on?
Yeah, done and dusted.
I never want to take another Otangelo call for the rest of my life. I think
at the time we took it, we didn't have that many theists. So if nobody else wants to hear an Otangelo call, keep the theists calling.
That's right.
All right. Who do you want to go to?
Please, Dave from Texas, please.
Dave from Texas. We can do that one. All right. So give us just a second. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. First time calling in. Sounds fun. I've been hearing from other of your people, and I'm sorry you got to deal with so many crazy people.
We always get those. No big deal. So, first of all, notes here say you're a pagan, and that we might actually be helping Christianity. We got 13 minutes. We got to fly. So, what do you got for us?
Also,
I'll make it very clear. The Christians came to my ancestors' homeland, murdered everyone, raped everyone, forced everyone to convert, educated their kids that Jesus was the only way, and said, all right, that's it, we're done. And that sort of permeated throughout the culture. It kind of spread to the point now, because I'm not fully Scandinavian ethnically, I'm obviously mixed, but I understand at one point that my ancestors weren't Christians, and I think that when you have these conversations and when you convince people that atheism is true, regardless of what I believe or not, right? When you do that, you also inherently take away their ability to want to look at or be excited or to really find out what their ancestors were. And they don't see that as, let's undo the damage first, let's get our culture back, let's get our practices back, And then we can say, okay, whether or not that's
So Dave, my problem with that is that by going back to culture, I assume you mean going back to some form of multi-theism or polytheism and pagan religious beliefs.
Pagans are pretty diverse, so I can't answer that. Like the removal of any are like.
So if you want to say culture, that's fine. But if you want to say go back to some sort of pagan belief in polytheistic gods and stuff like that, we're not going to agree on that one at all. There's absolutely no reason to go, not just to disbelieve in the Christian God, but to also, there are no other gods because nobody has presented us the evidence. We get mostly Christian callers, but if you or another polytheist want to call with evidence for your gods, we'll take those calls too.
You're not getting me.
Yeah, Dave, why would we want to, first of all, why would we want to regress back to a state pre-Christianity? We don't accept that polytheism is any more valid than Christianity. Why would we not just want to scrap the whole business and start over again with proper epistemological foundations? Why wouldn't we go even farther back and worship harvest gods or the forces of nature as anthropomorphized beings? I mean, I don't want to dismiss your belief system in that way, but I don't see why you keep talking over me, and I'm just trying to finish my thought. There's a delay. I understand, but let me just finish. I'm going to mute you. I'm going to go ahead and mute you, Dave. I don't want your community to be oppressed by Christianity. I'm very much against that, but I don't want to boost your belief system because I just not convinced it's true. I don't think it's true. And so why would I want to rewind the clock and then try to get to science and reason and humanism from paganism? I just don't get it. You are unmuted.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I'm not trying to convince you that it's true. What I'm trying, religion influences culture. That's very well established.
Yes.
And what my point I'm trying to make here is that by letting the Christians get away with their crimes, essentially what we're saying is that
we don't.
Okay, we surrender. We have no need to go back. Well, basically, because now my name is Dave, but I'm majority Scandinavian. Like, do you think that makes any sense? No, clearly not. I can't differentiate what the people in Norway believed in versus what they believed in Sweden. Like, I don't have.
Okay.
I don't know what their tradition is. I celebrate Halloween.
So why did we, who are atheists, who don't believe that any gods exist, care whether or not Norway and Sweden had different beliefs, different gods?
Because that influences culture, and I'm trying to take back my culture. I want to see what it was. I want to learn. I have a right to my birthright, and I need to figure out what it is. And
okay. I wish you I wish you the best of luck, but we're not going to be allies in promoting any god whatsoever.
Go do that.
Yeah. But anyway, good luck to you. We got to go. We got very little time left. We got 2 more callers to get to. So good luck to you. Talk to you later. Whoops. Don't want to drop that person. Let's see. Let's take this one should be fun. Okay, so I have your name as Printer Repair, so we'll just call you Printer, and you want to claim that the Bible proves the earth is flat. And I will agree, the Bible does say the earth is flat, but the earth is in fact round. The Bible is wrong. So what you got for us?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm curious how you get that claim. But could I start with why do you claim that the earth is a globe?
Yeah, so we can go with math, we can go with observation, we can go with the fact that ships disappear over the horizon. I mean, the amount of evidence that the earth is a globe is vastly overwhelming, and I don't want this conversation to turn into earth is flat versus a globe, simply because you are not even in the remote possibility of being right on that. So why do I care what the Bible says, and why does the Bible being wrong on it being a globe make the Bible true?
Well, I would say that if the earth were flat and we were living within the firmament of the Bible, which says we're the waters were separated from the waters and we live within the firmament, more or less we're in a giant petri dish, which would, if this were true, it would make God much closer than the vastness, emptiness.
But it's not true. It's not true.
Yeah.
Simply not true.
Okay, so let's say 8 inches per mile squared. Have you heard this heard this measurement?
What is it?
Yeah, I have.
8 inches per mile squared. There is observably, if the Earth were a globe, 8 inches per mile squared is how much.
Okay, this is not turning into a conversation, but the Earth is flat. I'm sorry.
Yep.
You are simply wrong on every point you want to make, and that is simply the case.
I just
Bye.
muted him. I just muted him.
dropped
I don't care about this very uninteresting argument.
Yeah, it
How about,
is.
how about our last caller? Do you want to do our last caller?
Let's do the last caller.
All right.
All right, Jesus in California. You claim we don't understand God, so help us to understand God.
I think you're right. I don't think I understand God.
Well, see, the thing is, like, you know what I'm saying? When I was presented to Sherry, who I just talked to previously, I asked her, like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people, like, you know, who are atheists, they don't really understand the Bible too much. They don't really have that knowledge. Like, you know what I mean? Like Sherry told me she was an ex-Catholic and she left. Some people think that they know this knowledge, but the thing is, they don't really like get it. I talk to plenty of Christians, even on the street, and they tell me what they believe, and it's not really like kind of quite accurate with what the Bible actually says.
Okay.
So I
Well,
told
the Bible is a
multiple,
and the Bible is a multiple guest choice. And for anything you believe in the Bible, I could probably find you a well-known preacher who completely disagrees with your point of view, and will use the Bible to prove it. So, what don't we understand about the Bible that you think we should?
Yeah, give us something. Let's talk specifics.
That's the thing. Like, for example, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying. Even preachers, I talk to plenty of preachers and they get, like, you know what I mean?
Jesus, you know, that's cool. Give us something specific.
Give us the example.
Give us an example of what we don't understand.
So, for example, look at it like this. You know what I mean? The origin of the world. A lot of, like, you know, like, do you guys believe in the Big Bang or in the evolution theory?
Yes. Well, Big Bang and evolution theory don't have anything to do with origin. Well, excuse me. Let me rephrase. Evolutionary theory has nothing to do with the origin of the universe. Big Bang theory is the current best explanation we have for the existence of the universe. Yes.
Well, this is what I wanted to say. This is what I meant by knowledge. You see, the thing is with evolution, like, you know what I'm saying? We have not seen a certain species evolve since the
I thought we were talking about the Big Bang. Do you want to talk about the Big Bang or do you want to talk about evolution?
Let me address this point on evolution real quick. You're wrong. We actually have seen new species evolved.
What research have you done into evolution and the evolution by natural selection, Jesus? What have you done? Have you gone to a university? Have you interned with a biologist, an evolutionary biologist? Have you conducted your own personal experiments with breeding of animals in a natural habitat? What have you done?
Well, this is what I'm saying. Look, as far as the knowledge...
Well, what have you done? The question is, what have you done? What research have you done? What university degrees have you acquired? What work have you done? The answer is either a specific amount of time, degrees, it's some name dropping that you could do right now, or you could say you've done internet research, or you can say you haven't done anything, and the answer is none. What have you done?
So, look, let me say it again. Look, I just listened to you, so, you know, please hear me out. The thing is, though, okay, when it comes down to it, okay, what I'm saying is, like, for example, in the Bible, okay, it states that...
I appreciate Jesus. I appreciate
we need you to answer the question.
Yes.
Not move on. We need you to answer the question. What specifically have you done to study evolution that you can claim it's not correct?
Let's pretend the Bible just isn't a factor in this. Give us the work that you've done outside of the Bible, Jesus. Okay? And the next word out of your mouth should be, well, Johnny, I did, and then you just fill in the blank on the rest of it.
Well,
what is it?
Well, look, check this out, okay? Listen, we have not seen those species evolve into humans. And then,
okay, so I'll tell you what, you know, I'm applying for a job and I say, you know, so what experience do you have? And I'll say, listen, we have not seen species evolve. No, please, Jesus, tell me what research you've done into evolutionary biology. What have you done? No dance around. Objection non-responsive. Please answer the question that you're asked. And we'll get on to the failings of evolutionary theory. What work have you done, Jesus? With all due respect, sir, what work have you done in evolutionary biology?
The thing is this.
And the Bible states that we were born from man.
Answer is then,
All right.
Johnny, that you haven't done anything.
Yeah, I'm dropping the call at that point.
Yeah.
He's just not going to answer the question. He just appears to want to preach. I'm trying to drop the call again. There we go. And this is the problem, right? You can claim evolution is wrong all you want, but you need to talk to evolutionary biologists. You can't just say whatever you're going to say about that. You got to give us that answer. Evolution has more evidence for it being correct than we have for gravity. So that is simply the case. And to give someone a platform to get into another long topic when we only have minutes left is just not going to work. So just a waste of our time. So that's the last call of the day.
Boy.
For Atheist Experience.
What a way to go out, huh?
Yeah, well, it was better than going out on Otangelo.
Oh, gosh. Otangelo. Get good.
Yeah.
Come on.
Sorry, odds don't prove anything.
Yeah.
The odds are against, royal flushes, and yet royal flushes happen a lot, especially at the World Series of Poker. So anyway, any parting words, Johnny?
I'll tell you what, get out there and be ready to show your research. Be ready to explain your research methodology. You don't have to have a PhD in a subject to become familiar with it. But if you come here and start preaching at us, it's probably not going to get you very far. Use the mind that you believe God gave you to make a better argument than what you're doing.
Yeah, or ask God to tell us, to what should you say that would convince us. If your God exists and he really wants us to be convinced, he will tell you. Yeah. That would be kind of interesting. So anyway, Johnny, you know what? We should once again thank all of our wonderful crew in the background. Mm-hmm. Let's bring up our miscreants. Literally not do this without you. Johnny and I are just not technically capable. So thank you so much for all the work you guys do. Everyone else should be thanking them as well. And that is pretty much it for the show, I think. And thank you all for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did doing it. And remember, stay skeptical in everything, including rumor mills that you may or may not hear. Mm-hmm. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
What will it take for you to start opening your eyes, to start questioning the bullshit everyone around you buys? You think it's any of your business what goes on between my thighs? I wonder when we'll be rid of your lies.
It's time to get sexy, so watch Secular Sexuality Live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTSS and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callsex.